You're watching Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris. With me is Sharad Khatun. Joining us now, we have Datuk Johan Arifin Samad, the former CEO of Institute for Development Studies, Sabah. He's currently a member of the G25 group and advisor to the NGO Malaysian Action for Justice, better known as MAJU. Johan, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Now, again, happy Malaysia Day to you, and we're using this opportunity to look at how there's been evolving dynamics of the federation. How would you describe the state of the federation today?
I think in terms of relation between East and West Malaysia, we are in a very sad state, and the reason for that, I think, both sides until now do not understand each other. Despite being 57 years in Malaysia, we still feel distant, divided by the South China Sea. And it's something that we feel every time when Malaysia Day crops up, September the 16th. We were only recognized given a public holiday in 2009, I believe. So I think that's 47 years later, we are recognized and given a public holiday, Malaysia Day. And Merdeka Day is still celebrated in a bigger way than Malaysia Day. And if you look at the way Malaysia Day is being celebrated, it's celebrated in East Malaysia and not in West Malaysia. And I don't know what is the reason for that. Okay, this year it will be in Cebu, all right? And we rotate between Sabah and Sarawak as a venue to celebrate Merdeka Day, but never in a big way in the federal capital.
Johan, do you think that part of the reason why there isn't this a common sense of what Malaysia is and what the federation ought to be is because of the dominance of the peninsula that makes people in the peninsula, politicians from the peninsula, unaware of their own privilege or their own, status vis-a-vis, people from Sabah and Sarawak? What is the root cause of this inability to find common ground?
Well, I think it's very much political. Partly history also, because in schools they were not taught how Malaysia was formed. If you look at the history books, there's one history book is being used in schools and universities about the history of Malaysia. It's only consisting of 5 pages out of 475 pages. So you have the history from Malacca days, Majapahit and whatever, and very little is said about Malaysia Day. But then, one of my friends told me the other day, he was surprised after joining his Malaysia First group to find out that Malaysia was actually formed in 1963 through a legal document. All right, it's not formed in Merdeka Day, okay, in 1957. So I think that is one part, the historical part. The other part is the politicians in KL, they know the game. They've been playing this up year after year. Tanah Air Melayu and so on, race and religion. That's what they're very good at. But in Sabah, as you can see now, the election is taking place in the state, and Shafi Abdal's poster, for example, is talking about unity, diversity, and uniting people through race and religion. All right, so it's a different pitch as compared to what is happening in KL. And one of the things I like to point out, PAS announced earlier that they're going to contest like 12 seats in Sabah, all right, but they got no seats. Why is that they got no seats? They're part of the PN government or Mafakat Nasional, all right, and the partner is UMNO. Why they were not given seats?
Okay, John.
The main reason why they're not given seats is because they will never be accepted in East Malaysia.
Well, John, I'm glad that you brought up the the upcoming Sabah elections, because one of the slogans that have been kind of talked about within this campaign period is Sabah for Sabahans. And I'm wondering whether this slogan shows, perhaps it reflects the failure of the federation.
Well, this slogan has been around, Sabah for Sabahans, But it's out of frustration. I think the people who wants to be in Malaysia, and I'm proud of Malaysia, are Sabah and Sarawak people. Whereas in KL, the UMNO people are still talking Tanah Air Melayu, Tanah Air Melayu. Well, Malaysia is not Tanah Air Melayu. It's a land for Malaysians, okay? And we have to remind them constantly that, we cannot divide people through race and religion and expect Malaysia to progress down the road. So Sabah election to me is very important in the sense that this is a vote of confidence for the federal government, okay? It's just not just a state election. Now, if Shafi and Warisan wins, it means a rejection of the federal government, whatever they stand for today, okay? Whether it's a Melayu stand or Islamic stand or whatever. It's a rejection of the federal government. And the sentiment on the ground is very, very strong now to reject them after all these crossovers purportedly by the federal people.
Johan, the question, if Sabah is, and the people of Sabah are committed to a multi-racial, multi-religious, inclusive Malaysia, do you think that message could come over to the peninsula and be sold here? Is this something that's going to divide the Federation, with Sabah and Sarawak on one hand espousing a very different view of the Federation, and on the peninsula an increasingly a retreat into ethno-nationalism and chauvinism?
Yeah, well, that's happening without question, all these issues that you mentioned. Let me give you the global picture, okay, for what's going to happen. Now, if Warisan does well, it'll be a game changer. The next election is Sarawak election. Yes, must be carried out next year, as early as June. All right. So now the current government and all the allies, they are desperate to win this election. All right, because if they lose this election, there'll be a contingent effect or domino effect, right? It will affect Sarawak election. They will reject federal government, and also if they lose, the people of Sabah will reject the federal government. So the federal government is in a very tight situation now, and they have to win this election. But by the sentiments on the ground, and my interview with all these people, there's a lot of backlash because of the crossover led by Musa Aman, backed by federal government. Okay, there's a lot of anger expressed by Sabahans. But let's look at the domino effect that's going to happen if they lose the election. That's why they're so desperate to bring all the people from the election machinery from KL to compete against the local machinery here, mainly Warisan and the allies.
Johan, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We really appreciate your time and you sharing your insights with us. Happy Malaysia Day to you. We're going to take a quick break here.